Welcome back. More to breaking news that we've been telling you about. A federal judge has temporarily blocked the Trump administration's funding freeze.
Joining us now is Professor Stephen Caliendo from North Central College. We have to start here with this ruling. What does this mean for America, for us right now?
Well, I think what it means to you is business as usual right now. I think when the lawsuit was filed on behalf of not-for-profits earlier this afternoon, this was what was expected. Certainly, any federal judge is going to point out that the act was illegal. What President Trump tried to do with this, but his OMB director asked to do, completely illegal. Can't be done, and so certainly it's not surprising to me that a federal judge intervened.
Okay, so let's talk about some student grants and loans. I know there are a lot of concerns in a lot of different areas, and this is one of them. How is this going to impact things like Pell Grants? How are students going to be affected by this?
Well, there was some clarification, Sylvia, that came out of the Department of Education today that Pell Grants would not be affected. Student loans, because the way they're structured, wouldn't be affected. But none of that was clear last night when this memo was issued by the OMB director. And so all of us at colleges and universities across the country were scrambling all day today, not knowing if we could disperse, for instance, students' financial aid that they were approved for, not knowing what to tell researchers who were on an NSF grant, National Science Foundation grant, or a National Institutes of Health grant. All of these things are up in the air. I think that, because the deadline was supposed to be 4 o'clock our time, and the judge has stayed the decision for now, everything's the same. But I think there's still good questions to be had about how this happened and whether or not the administration intended for this to be so sweeping.
And the key words you said there, for now, but still so many questions because so many other programs were facing being cut off. Head Start, for example, I know that serves nearly 800,000 children. What does this mean for those families who depend on that program?
Absolutely. On and on. Paris's report a moment ago was excellent, as it always is. Of course, he does a great job of pointing out some of it's amazing, though, because, Americans have said over and over that they want to cut waste from government. But what I think folks always forget is how much of that government funding benefits ordinary folks all the time. And so one of the things I think this might do is remind us how much we all rely on federal funding in various ways. It's not just handouts to people who are lazy. This is the idea of the way government works needs to be clarified. And I think part of what happened with this, honestly, I don't know if they intended it to be this sweeping. It's amateur hour in Washington, D.C. There are people just falling all over each other to be crueler and crueler to impress President Trump. And as a result, they're not being clear, and they don't have the qualifications to run some of these agencies.
Okay, let's talk about this, because last week the president toured some areas of disaster relief was desperately needed. He said FEMA is just moving too slow. Could this be the beginning of the end of an organization like FEMA? You almost wonder, did this have anything to do with this?
It's all interrelated, Sylvia. You're right to point that out. In other words, the ideas about the appropriate role for government is very much being affected now by the wealthiest handful of Americans. Doesn't mean that if we didn't have FEMA that we wouldn't have some other kind of emergency assistance for people. Doesn't mean that FEMA maybe needs an overhaul. All of those things make sense. But one of the things you saw last week, of course, is the president very publicly tying assistance to the state of California to electoral reforms that he'd like to see in the state. And that was backed up by the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Those are the things I don't know that people voted for when they wanted the kind of change that Donald Trump promised on the campaign trail.
Professor Caliendo, thanks as always for breaking stuff down for us, making it make sense. Appreciate your time.
Great to see you both. Take care.
All right.